What's on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering. I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful day. After years of going woke, the price has finally come due. The bill has come due, I suppose, is the correct way to put that. Pixar Studios, which was behind some of the most iconic children's films. I guess if you probably have to be a millennial to remember Pixar's kind of heyday. Toy Story 1, 2, and 3. There are many. They really did have some very popular films. But unfortunately, the last several films, their literal selling line was, this is a movie about a girl's period, represented by a red panda. And this is a movie of your beloved previous character that we've fired the main voice actor, or blacklisted him, replaced him with a woke leftist, and made sure that this children's movie featured the first girl-on-girl action, interracial too, I guess. I don't know. It's just all woke stuff, right? Like, oh, look, it's a interracial girl married to a girl. Bring your kids. Nobody cared, right? These movies were spectacular flops, and the bill has come due. Pixar now laying off hundreds of people at their office, 175 employees, about 15% of the total staff, and they will be no longer producing any content for Disney Plus. It's tough, but this is what they deserve. This is what they did. Major Pixar layoffs, long expected, now underway and restructuring exclusive. The long expected layoffs at Pixar Animation Studios have begun. Today, leadership of the storied company that traces its origins to late Steve Jobs and was bought by Disney back in 2006 will notify employees of the reduction. Approximately 15% of the Pixar's workforce, 175 employees, will be let go. Before the reductions, approximately 1,300 people worked at the animation studios. The layoffs are part of Disney chief Bob Iger's overarching mandate to return to a focus on quality versus churning out content for streaming, which was a priority of his short-lived successor, Bob Chapek. Disney execs have talked about returning to a focus on quality. I mean, let me know when you get there, by the way, during numerous earnings calls this year, saying creative teams across the company were stretched too thin in the arms race to feed streamers. Well, I still don't necessarily believe that. Like, I still don't necessarily believe that there isn't an appetite for quality in abundance, right? We know this because Oppenheimer and Barbie were out at the same time and they both made $1 billion. Okay, people will go see good movies. It's just that Disney doesn't put out good movies and hasn't done so in 15 years practically. Pixar employees have known since January that layoffs were coming. If there's some solace in to be had, the reductions are less than 20% reported in January, nor is Pixar being singled out. There were layoffs across all of Disney last year because cuts at Pixar were delayed because of production schedules, say Pixar. The once invincible animation studio suffered a major setback during the lockdowns, which Chapek regime decided to send Luna, Soul, and Turning Red straight to Disney Plus, which they are all terrible anyway, even though cinemas had begun to reopen or were in full recovery mode. And then its first post-Coof theatrical release, Lightyear, was mostly dismissed by critics and audience, exposing Pixar to the ongoing scrutiny. Well, gee, I wonder why parents didn't bring their kids to Lightyear. First of all, you didn't bring Tim Allen in to voice Lightyear, which mattered to people, okay? I get it. They were like, well, for lore reasons, he's actually just the voice of the toy, not the actual voice of the... I don't care. People wanted Tim Allen to voice Lightyear, and you didn't hire him because he's a conservative, and everyone knew it, okay? So they didn't go see your movie. Then all the headlines were, come see the first woman-on-woman kiss in a children's movie ever. Give us your $15 and let your kids watch our woke indoctrination. Again, people didn't go see the movie. Lost $200 million. Pixar received good news last year with the release of Elemental, which earned nearly $500 million globally to become the biggest original animated movie since Pixar's Coco in 2017, which was also a streaming sensation. And theater owners have high hopes for Inside Out 2, which opens June 14th in North America. Other upcoming films include next year's Elio and Toy Story 5 in 2026. I don't know if you saw Toy Story 4, but it was garbage. I had a friend who was like big into Toy Story when he was growing up, and he wanted to see, the Toy Story movie or Toy Story 4. And all I saw was basically Bo Peep was an unstoppable girl boss, Mary Sue, who was also a karate champion, and Woody was a bumbling idiot. Like all the men in the men in that movie were terrible caricatures of men, and Bo Peep was constantly having to save their bacon. It was the dumbest crap I'd ever seen in years. It was like every stereotype from every bad movie that makes fun of men for the past 10 years, all balled up into one. Now, I don't know how it did in the theater. It probably did fine. But we're talking about, if we look at the 10 lowest grossing films, well, Cars only made $500 million. Let's go to more recent flops, okay? Turning Red, which had a budget of $175 million, it made $20 million. So call that a $200+ million loss. Oh yeah, it was also about periods. Luca, which I don't know what that is, probably had some LGBTQ stuff in it, also tanked. Soul made $121 million at the box office, but had close to a $200 million budget, so that lost money. Onward made $141 million at the box office, still not enough to make money. Lightyear made $226 million at the box office, still lost $150 million after marketing. The Good Dinosaur, I'm not surprised that's a flop, $332 million. Some of these like websites that list flops, I suspect $330 million, like Bugs Life making $360 million, that probably made money. Like these ones, Toy Story, the original one made $400 million, but I guess that's adjusted for inflation. That'd probably be $1 billion movie nowadays. You go to Screen Rant, Pixar finally breaks a disastrous 5-movie trend, but now Disney must do better. They got lucky with Elemental. Elemental making a profit breaks a run of 4 straight Pixar movies losing money. Who wants to take their kid to see a movie about a kid's period? I don't think that there's a huge market for that. I mean, I know there isn't because I saw it at the box office, right? This latest Elemental or whatever emotional one, there's we have a new emotion. It's anxiety. Okay, bring your kids into that. Get them on those SSRIs early. You see Peachy Keenan writing, Pixar has not released a good movie since Toy Story 3 in 2010, so the only surprise here is that they're actually still around. Based and true. But what a run they had from 1995 to 2010. Every single one is a huge hit and at least a B+. Yeah, The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Lally. Up, I think, was largely overrated, but a fine movie. Again, who's surprised by this? You look at the comments and a lot of these sections, people are just laughing at them. Get woke, go broke. This is what you get. Now, obviously, Disney does what Disney does. They're going to have to trim the fat big time because people are no longer racing to the movie theaters just to see whatever slop they want. Now, I think, Deadpool and Wolverine probably comes out this very soon, relatively soon, I think. I have no doubt that movie will make money. I'm not in any interest to race to the movie theaters to see it, but I'll definitely see it. I'll probably wait for streaming. It's still just, it's still a Marvel movie. Well, Disney movie. But yeah, I think Marvel or Deadpool is still pretty good. Although, again, the order of Deadpool movies in, best to worst is the order in which they were released, just like Jurassic Park, just like John Wick. Sequels are great, but they very rarely exceed the original. There are only a few examples in like modern cinematic history where they do. So, to me, is Pixar cooked for good? Probably. If they don't get back to being family friendly, you can have a message in these kids movies. That's 100% fine, but it's got to be like a universal one. Like the golden rule, treat people how you want to be treated, or about confidence, or about, growing up, about overcoming adversity. These are all things that work to get you where you were during the original run of Pixar when things were good. Then you're like, hey, but what about lesbians? Lesbianisms. What about periods? We got to put periods in the movies. You know, the fact that Elemental only made 29 million its opening weekend, but somehow made 425 million is probably an outlier, an exception, not the rule. And by the way, it still only made a small profit. These budgets around these movies are gigantic, and you know, people just don't want to pay to see propaganda anymore. We get enough of it for free from our government and our mainstream media and, you know, everywhere else. So yeah, ripperonis, Disney and Pixar, I mean, it's fine. I hope they go back to what worked for them. I want kids to have good movies growing up, like Toy Story or Bug's Life, or just like libertarianism. But like, you know, I want that for them. I don't want them to get woke political crap crammed down their throats. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it, and we'll talk to you again real soon.